Paint this beautiful poinsettia in watercolor. For this you will need a big size 10 brush, a size 4 brush and a small acrylic brush which holds less water, and 2 water containers. You will also need a HB pencil, and the colors that I used are pink or rose, red, magenta, sap green, a golden yellow and a black. Let's get to paint. First I'm sketching out the poinsettia in pencil. I am going to also attach a printable version of this sketch in the description. But if you want to follow along and sketch with me, then please do. So I'm just drawing out the individual petals of the poinsettia, and then we will be painting them after I finish sketching. As you can see, the smaller petals are at the top and the larger petals are at the bottom. So I've tried to keep it as simple as possible so that it'll be an easy flower to paint. This is a flower that I unfortunately can't share with you because of the royalty reasons. I can't share the reference image with you, but I can certainly share the completed painting and the sketch of the flower with you. Now I'm just about finishing up the main petal drawings, and if you're not a good sketcher, you can also use a light box to copy the printed copy if you've got one. But the more you sketch, the more you become better at observing and recognizing where things have to go in your painting. So it's a really good skill to have, actually, if you are interested in art. It just increases the powers of observation. I've just sketched out a rough center with like a scalloped edge because it doesn't need a lot of detail. So I've just left the whole central bit of the flower quite blank. Now we just cover the whole paper with water. One thing that I've forgotten to say is that I have just taped the edges of the paper onto a board, which is why there is the brown around the paper, which is something you need to do before you start wetting your paper. So just wet the whole paper with copious amounts of water till the water actually soaks into the paper and there is a glisten on top. You can see there, how wet my paper is and how runny the water is. And that's how glistening it should be when you start painting with your colors. Now I'm just mixing up some permanent rose, the pink color, and I'm mixing up a big puddle of it because we will be using a lot of this pigment in this painting. Now I am just going and filling the entire painting with this color of permanent rose. And because there is water in the paper, it's going to stop the pigment from being too concentrated. So the water in the paper will dilute the pigment. And that is an easy way to start and lay a base layer throughout the paper. The paper that I'm using is a Bockingford 9 by 12 inch watercolor paper, watercolor sheet. And I'm just leaving the center unpainted because I have waited till the water has seeped in a little bit. The paint is not just flowing everywhere. I've still got a lot of control when I'm putting down a puddle of paint. But the thing to note here is that my paint is not extremely watery. It's kind of a coffee or a milky consistency. So it's not extremely watery like tea. And so when I put my paint down, it's not flowing into that region. Next, I'm putting some sap green down where the leaves are supposed to go, which is those two areas there, as well as some small bits in the corners and at the edges at the bottom of the painting. So that's where the petal ends, and it's great as a contrasting color to mark the edges of the petals. And they are going to flow into the pink a little bit. That's okay. Don't worry. I think it will give a really nice look to the finished painting when there's a bit of flow here and there, when it's not a strictly very botanical painting. I've just waited for that paint to dry a little bit, and then I'm coming back in now with a mixture of coral or red and that pink that we used before. So, and it's a coffee or cream consistency of paint that I'm using here. So it's not just flowing everywhere when I put it down, because the paper is still wet, but it still spreads when I put it, but it doesn't move too much. So I'm just going around and drawing or painting the edges of each petal, and then coming down with the tip of my brush, painting the midrib and also the veins that go out from the midrib. Now in this particular poinsettia, I think the pinks on the outside did come towards the center here and there, not everywhere. So I'll be showing you where in this poinsettia it just comes towards the middle a bit more. I'm going and outlining that, and then drawing the next petal, which is next to that that I just painted. Now the colors will flow into each other, but that's okay. It all adds to the organic look of the painting. So the petal that I'm painting now is actually just underneath, I think, of it's just next to the petal, but is on top of another petal underneath, which you can see that pink blob to the left. And I'm just putting in the veins, and you can see the color is flowing a little bit. So when you end up with that little spot of color, it's good to end it in a place where there's already some paint. So that I'm now starting with the midrib of the next petal, which goes out from just underneath the petal I just painted, and those are the veins. And you can see now what I mean by, the edges are have got quite a bit of color which come towards the center in some cases. So that's how I'm working the edge of the petal and the veins coming. And the layers that we put underneath now give such a nice organic feel to the petal. And so I'm coming round to the other side of that petal and marking out the edge which comes onto there, and then marking out the same. I mean, I'm still using the same mixture of the coral and or the red mixed with the pink, the permanent rose that I'm using in this case. And see how I'm just bringing with the tip of the brush, I'm just connecting the midrib to the edge, so I don't have those sort of cauliflower marks as I finish off my painting. And I'm just pulling that color from the edge and bringing it in to merge with the midrib. And you can see they all need a bit more color. There's a thick block of color at the edge. Now I'm going on to paint the next petal, where again there's that lot of color on that side, and then will be connecting it to the midrib and the veins that then come out. So that's the midrib right there, and that's the other edge that I'm then painting the so you, just like I showed you, there's a lot of color at the edges of the petals, and then I'm coming and painting the veins and connecting them to these painted bits, and slowly but steadily you can see now that's the top petal, that's the smallest petal on top that I'm just laying, and it's pretty much that petal is just full of color. There's not much lighter bits in that one. So at this point in time, the uh, the petals are just sort of merging into each other, but we will keep defining that. We'll be painting more layers as we come round. So this is just the second layer that we're painting, where we're defining a little bit more the midrib and the edges and the veins. And you can see now I'm just showing you how you sort of paint the veins and then just fill in the edges where there is a lot more darker color on that side. So this is our second layer that we're going around with. And again, there's a lot of color on that side. All these kinds of little things and observations really add to the organic nature of the petals. So I'm going and adding the petal that's on top of this petal, or to the above. It's not above, it's just on top of the petal in the painting, and that's a fairly large petal too. So just going in, doing the same thing, adding the color to the edges. I'm still using the same mixture of the pink, sometimes adding a bit more coral, sometimes adding a bit more pink, just varying the colors ever so slightly. And again, there's a lot of color on the outside of the petal. And then now I'm going to a really large petal, which comes kind of underneath this petal here. And we're adding the edge. And then we're going to come down and just draw out flick out really some veins. And then adding the midrib now. And then just connecting the veins to the midrib. And similarly, we're going to do the other side, where we're just going to come and paint some more veins, and the edges where we're going to put some more color in. You could use some more red at this point, coming especially for the petals that come towards the edge of the paper. And you can see how the petal on top now is being painted again with that midrib, and then adding in the you can see, as you can see, I'm just literally flicking with the side of my brush sometimes, just to give that effect of almost like a dry brush effect, if you like. And then there's the petal on top, which is actually not very well defined, so we're going to leave it like that. And mixing up some more paint. Oh, I'm just putting some black in with the red to give it just to tone down that red. And I'm using that for the outermost petal in that corner, top corner, and just bringing the edge and just painting the some of the veins there. So we're going to leave it. We're not going to put a lot of detail into that, but just showing that there's a petal there with that midrib and some veins going out towards the outside. And just with clean water in the brush, I'm just filling in I'm just softening some of the edges because that bit of the paper has now dried, so I just want it to be softer. And so now we're coming round again with the third layer, and again with that same mixture of a red mixed with black, a touch of black, and using that to using that to paint that leaf that's just below the leaf underneath, and using some the brush with clean water to soften the edges of that petal too. And then we're coming to the petal we painted before with mixture of the red and pink, and now we're putting a lot more detail in it, and even maybe some magenta into the midrib, and just defining the edge of that petal again. Now you can see the flower starting to come into focus because the petals are all drying a little bit now. The paper is more dry, so when I put the paint, it just stays where I put it. Now that is a mixture of red and black that I'm putting in that petal that I'm just painting now, because it goes more as a shadow area. It is underneath the top petals, so you can't see nice bright colors in it. And then going on to paint the next petal again, that's on top, just refining those midrib and the veins a little bit more. And I think for this I'm for the doing the final work on the petals, now I've shifted to the size 4 watercolor brush. It's got a really nice tip, so if you make sure that your watercolor brush has a nice tip, it will then make sure that it holds plenty of paint as you do your work, as well as give you a nice tip to work with. These brushes that I'm using, I think I got from Art Discount, but there are lots of good brushes available. So again, I'm going and defining the edge of that petal at the bottom left, and adding some magenta into the midrib and the veins, and darkening the color. It's still a tiny bit wet, so it's not a very set. It doesn't just stay in one place. It spreads out a little bit and softens, and so it does a lot of the work for me. But as we keep adding, and I'm just putting the shadow into the petal as well, because it's just underneath that top petal, and just softening with the brush with water really to that edges so that they're not very, very sharp. And again, going and working on the petal above with magenta, and then coming round to paint this petal, because I think we didn't do that the previous time. So putting in those midribs and the veins. And I think so this is a great way, if you make a mistake, just pick up with a tissue before it dries and any mistake is quickly corrected. So just painting the veins on the other side. I've noticed that the veins don't strictly come off where the opposite side vein comes off. They kind of alternate a little bit. Now I'm also putting the darks, the dark pink. Again, this is a mixture of the pink and the red or the coral, and just going over the layer that I put before really. I'm not adding any extra darks in areas where I haven't put color. So I'm just going and reinforcing the colors that I've already put in the previous layer and just connecting it up with the, just giving it a little bit more definition and connecting it with the veins. And I'm doing the same thing on the other side, where I'm just putting a shadow area because there's a leaf on top there, and then connecting it up, doing pretty much what I did with the left side. I'm doing the same thing on the right side, and I'm just bringing the red and pink mixture all the way down, and that really now brings that leaf into focus. Now I'm just mixing up some more of that nice dark juicy pink and red mixture, and you can see I'm just using that to define the edge of one petal, and also just adding more pigment to where I previously added pigment with the layer beneath. It just gives so much more depth when you do that, I feel. And again, just going and see, I'm not adding any color in a new place. I'm just going and reinforcing the color that I'd already added in the previous layer. So again, with that nice creamy red and pink, and just defining those veins again. Now, again, I'm going and darkening that layer that we added some dark, and defining some of that underneath leaves with some of that dark red, black. I'm also now coming and painting the top leaf with its midribs, the edges, and its veins, again with that pink and red mixture. After that, we just go and define the other central or top petal as well, with that same pattern of the pink and red mixture, mixing it in with some magenta for the veins. Now I'm using a mixture of the black mixed in with the red. So it's actually red mixed in with a touch of black. And I'm using that coffee-like mixture to darken the leaf that is underneath a lot of the leaves in the painting, but it also is bigger, so it comes out. You can see a lot more of it, but it's under a lot of shadow, so it's not as bright and vibrant as the leaves that are the petals that are on top. So which is why we're giving it that subdued feel. Next, we're using a sort of blue magenta mixture, almost a violet, to just a little wash in between the veins of the petals. And you can see it just gives the whole petal a different look, and it's just adds that variation. I'm not using that violet everywhere. I'm still leaving slivers of white here and there, and so as to be like the highlights, but I am covering a lot of the whites with that sort of violet color, and I feel it just really brings the petals together, and it removes the harsh white of the paper, and it looks, now if you just take an objective look, you can see just adding that violet has made it, has just brought the whole painting together, if you like. So I'm just adding some extra details here and there. Now I'm just mixing up a mixture of the black with the green, so it's quite dark, and adding that where the leaves go. And the leaves are in shadow, so it's actually quite dark just around the edges of those petals. So I'm just filling that in with this black-green mixture, which is quite creamy now. There's not a lot of water in my brush. And I've shifted to a smaller brush, even maybe a small acrylic brush, which is, I think, like a size 2. And you can see how just adding that dark in those areas has just helped the petals to pop. And I am going and adding that with that same brush. I'm adding the veins in the midrib of that bottom leaf, which we said was kind of in the shadows, and also filling in the colors in with that same color in the that's actually the stalk which is going in between those two petals, and so filling that in along with some other bits at the top where that is essentially where we put all the green now is quite dark, and the moment we put those darks, the petals just pop out. And adding that dark black green at the top bit too, which is that just next to that petal in that top corner. And then we're going to work on tiny details here and there. And now I'm going around to just add the dark red mixed with black. I'm just adding that to give some more emphasis to the fact that that petal is under all these other petals at the top. And I'm just going and working on that veins in the midrib and then just filling in the gaps with brush dipped in clean water, just drawing that color out. So you can see that has really pushed that petal down below the other petals at the top. And then adding some more shadows into the leaf on the left, some more shadows on the leaf on the right. All of these little things is going to really help to produce that 3D effect on the whole flower. Next, we are going to work on just adding some more greens into that stalk area just over there. And I'm just dropping some sap green into that dark black mixture that we've already put in. And now we're working on the center of the flower, just adding some little round shapes really with that sap green and just outlining those little buds at the top. We're going to leave it to dry for now and then come back to it later with some gold and red colors. We've got to also darken that little leaf on top with that black and green mixture. Black goes a long way in just darkening a color without having to add its opposite or complementary color. And that gives a nice shadow to that green there too. And we're going to come back and just define that little dark pink area just underneath and we're just defining the center by doing that. Now I'm just adding some yellow gold mixture. In this case I used quinacridone gold, but you can use any color you like, to just add some dots and shapes at the top where the light would strike, and allowing it to mix with that green a little bit. I'm definitely going to wait for that to dry, and after that dries I'm just coming back and defining some more of the petals with that pink and red mixture. Now if it in this case, as it bled into the other area, I'm just sucking it up with some tissue and then going back in again. Watercolor is so forgiving actually if you know how to work with it. Just darkening some more of that leaf with that green and black mixture, and putting some magenta into the midribs of the veins, adding some more, now some reds in between those gold and green colors. So I guess these are the buds that are yet to come out, but I have waited for the green and the yellow to dry so that they don't flow into each other. Once that's done, I'm just adding some green and black mixture to add some more definition to the buds within that central bit there. It's almost like semicircles that I'm adding here and there. Once that's done, you can peel off the tape. Make sure you peel it facing out so that you're not tearing into the paper. And there we have it, one beautiful pink red poinsettia. I hope you give this a go, and please do like and subscribe if you like this.